doing, everybody? Well, I'm sitting here on my thinking logs, and I don't know. I just thought I'd make a quick video and talk for a minute about the humor of life. I guess it's inspired by I uploaded a Alan Watts video a couple years ago, and I get comments now and again, and they're usually kind of funny, quirky. I figured I would, mention Alan Watts for people who haven't heard of him. And it's not Alan Watt. He's a conspiracy guy. Alan Watts died years ago. He was kind of a Zen philosopher, clown guru kind of guy. He was a joke. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's the most respectful way. He wasn't a joke. He was a joker. Okay, he had a Zen approach to life where he just kind of laughed things off, put them in a way that people can kind of go, yeah, I can relate. But anyway, the comment and the reason why the comment inspired me was the person had said that he said back in his 20s he found Watts very inspiring, but now listening to him as an adult, it seems like he's just kind of I can't remember the term he used, but I looked. The term basically means kind of egotistical in a way, or riding on the ego. And when I thought about that, I thought, I discussed it with the guy and said, I actually see it as the opposite. I see him as egoless. But we discussed it for a minute, and it got me thinking about this idea that, because at a certain point, I guess what the guy, now it's going to rain on me. He said you just don't, at one point you just look back and it just doesn't matter anymore. Those things don't matter anymore. And I thought about that, and I know where he was coming from, because I go through these points in my life where the things that used to be so, I guess, things that I was working on or learning about became kind of like duh moments or obvious. And I guess ego is one of those perfect examples. It's one of those things where once you realize what it is and you come to terms with it, you can learn to conquer it, and then you realize that your ego doesn't control you. But then you go through life and you can go back and revisit the idea of ego and laugh and say, okay, I thought I had it figured out, but I don't. And I'm using just ego as one example of, there's so many different things you learn in life that are like this, or that I've learned in life that are like this, where you think, okay, I finally got this figured out, and then you come back to it and revisit it. Whereas, for example, when you're young, you're told to use your ego, to use your, that pride, to be successful in life and whatnot. Then you get older and you become humble, hopefully, and realize that that's not what it's about. You just let things roll off your back, just be very humble and let everything happen as it happens. Then you grow out of that and you look back and go, what was I thinking? I have to utilize my ego. So, in other words, you go for all or none, and then you realize that it's always balance. And all that balance comes back to that Zen philosophy, that everything is balanced. And so, in a way, Alan Watts is kind of childish in the way that he addresses many things. But the reason why I find that so fascinating is just because that's the way to reach the masses. And I don't mean that insulting, but, you have to speak like a child to children, and we're all children. And I guess it's not talking down to children. It's talking in a childlike behavior. There's a huge difference there. There's people who talk down on others and say that, you should know this or you should do that. Then there's people who say, we're all children together. We're all figuring this out. And, it's always humorous to me to see somebody who makes claims that they've, achieved some state of awareness or knowledge or something to where, they finally have it figured out. But you can tell by the way that they're going about their business and discussing and confronting people that that's just an illusion, because sometimes people can't function with others. In other words, the person who says, I understand all the things that are going on, but I can't get along with my fellow man. So that's why the humor of Zen philosophy, of Zen Buddhism, is so funny to me. It's a humor that's based on the idea that everything's humorous, that life is just one big thing to laugh at. no matter how you look at it, you know, we can go through our daily life and find these moments of clarity where we're like, I don't know. We have these, most of the day is just going along doing our routine, and then we'll have these moments where all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. You know, regardless of what I believe or what I think, this consciousness, this body, it's just along, I'm just along for the ride, you know. And you kind of have to laugh it off. You do. You do. Anyway, there's some thoughts. If you haven't checked out Alan Watts, check him out. It's pretty funny. I don't really listen to his stuff anymore. I just, had my moment. So I know where the guy was coming from when he made that comment. Like, I know I'm way beyond or past the Alan Watts phase of my life, but I still revisit it to gain that old story, that old laughter back about the what ifs. It's timeless, let's put it that way, okay? A lot of things people talk about are speculative or maybes or what ifs. Some of them are very specific and detailed, but they're only related to current events or something that has to do with modern society. But philosophy and Zen, they're enduring and they're timeless, and they're things that you can always revisit and gain new insight from. And it's fascinating. Take care, everybody.